evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. We're going to ask the same question that we always do every Monday night, Mark. What is going on? I'm Chris. This is Mark. How are we doing, lads?
I'm pretty good, lads. There's only the two of us. What are you doing?
Sorry, mate. I went into Wednesday mode there. Beg your pardon, mate. What's going on with you, Mark? There we go.
What's going on? Well, I tell you what is going on today. Today, I bought my Ben their first pair of football boots.
Ooh, what type? What make? Come on, get a make.
Proud dad moment today. Well, she's only just getting started, but it's a pair of Sondico ones, how you say it.
Sondico. You can't get wrong with Sondicos, mate. That's vintage.
So yeah, she loves them. It's proud dad moment. So it's taken me long enough to get her to like football. So this is just
baby steps, mate. Baby steps. Wasn't Roberto Baggio Sondico? I'm sure he was. Wasn't he Baggio? Wasn't he a Sondico man? I'm sure he was.
I could be right. I mean, we're going back a little bit. You're testing my memory now from
the divine ponytail.
Ash is bang on the money.
Ashes,
yeah. Amen to that. Because
you can smell a keeper. I was going to say, you can smell it. You can smell a keeper a mile away, but we've got loads to get stuck into, mate. So just before we do a little bit of housekeeping for everybody, if you haven't already, please click the like and subscribe button. We're over 1,800 subs now, so thank you so much to everybody who's done that. We really appreciate that. It was a milestone we were wanting to get through. Next one's 1,900 and push on to 2,000. So smash the button. You won't regret it. We've got loads of good content coming, whether it be the live shows that we do now and every Wednesday, like I slipped in Wednesday mode before, or just the pop-up videos that we do, whether it be previews, reviews. We've just recorded a special actually on Joe Willock, which should be out in the next couple of days. So that's a really good one to check out as well. And as always, we are live. We've got loads of comments in already. So we love it when you guys jump in the comments and have a bit crap with us. It really helps the episode flow. So let's get stuck in with the first subject then, Mark. So obviously we're all aware that the Premier League had been postponed, as a mark of respect for the death of Queen Elizabeth II, which was very tragic. Obviously we had said that before in our Morning Magpie video, but the Premier League has come out and said it's returning this weekend. And one of the games that's going to get played is our game, which is against Bournemouth at home. But you're a bit skeptical, mate, aren't you? Because of the policing situation here.
I don't know. I think it's skeptical, but there's always that sort of thought in the back of your mind that goes, if they need more policing, these kind of events, they want more armed police. Now, if they can't get them all from London area, they're going to come from elsewhere. So does that hamper the policing ability in other areas? It might not, but it was just one of those things that nags in the back of your mind and goes, could we still see some of these off if they suddenly put a call out for more coppers from elsewhere in the country? I don't know. It was just one of those thoughts that ran through my brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope that's not the case. Obviously, whenever there's a major event like what's happening, next week with the Queen's funeral, there's always the risk, isn't there? There's the terror threats, there's all that stuff that goes on. So that they won't just need police for the day; they'll need police in the lead up to it, as you rightly say, the weekend beforehand and everything else. And we all know, not to get too political because this is a football podcast, but we all know, how much the police numbers were cut over the years, and how they do after drafting coppers from other areas, as you rightly say, mate. So let's hope it doesn't affect, the Premier League so much, because as you rightly said, Mark, previously before we come on, the fixtures are already piling up because of the World Cup happening this year, and these postponements and rearrangements and everything. It's not. I mean, obviously, given the fact of what happened aside, obviously, I'm not being heartless or anything like that, but it's not great, is it, for the football fans and for the football players either, is it, with all these smashed together congested fixture lists?
No, and especially when you've got a season like this, that there are very few available windows to play rearranged games. I think I was looking at some of the stuff yesterday, and there were only a few sort of midweek periods next year that were available to try and shove games into if teams were, if we're going to cancel another weekend, for example, it was going to be difficult, especially if teams went deep into the Carabao Cup, for example, that got rid of more. So were we going to see things like cup replays stopped again? Could they have made an arrangement with UEFA to start playing games earlier on before Champions League games kicked off and stuff? So because there's that agreement that we won't play sort of the league games when the European games are on. So there were loads of things to kind of consider that, but there was just so few weekends available because we've got the World Cup in a few weeks' time. Jesus, that's not far away now.
I know, it's frightening, isn't it? I did laugh that I was watching the TV the other day, and obviously Qatar's been in the press for all the wrong reasons, hasn't it? And maybe I'll just take the focus off the Saudi-led Newcastle United for about 10 minutes, possibly with some of the bedwetting journalists that get on the bandwagon. I'm still yet to see anything from certain bedwetters, mind you, but I did block half of them on Twitter, so that's probably why. But yeah, I mean, looking at the situation, as you rightly say, there's not a lot of time to get a lot of football played. And, that there isn't just the risk of obviously the clubs managing through, but there's also the risk to the national team, isn't there? England players facing burnout, all that type of stuff going into a tournament. And what made me laugh was they said, they're playing it in November, so it won't be, I think the journalist said, it won't be 48 degrees centigrade like it is now. It'll be a cool 37. And I thought, 37. But then there is air-conditioned stadiums, isn't there? So, there is that as well.
We had 35 the other week, and I was nearly dying of heat exhaustion.
Yeah, they get the defibrillators, mate.
I got into the car and nearly passed out. That was how hot it was. So no, I'm not playing football in that sort of heat. Jesus wept.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ash is right at the money as well. The match better be back this week. I've run out of shite to write about with all the football news being buried, no pun intended.
Put it that way. When one of our headline things to talk about today was Saint-Maximin's new haircut, you're starting to see you're struggling for things to talk about.
Oh man, absolutely. You can see that with all of the Newcastle podcast as well. They're all talking about other things other than the game, aren't they? Really, just to get some content out.
We could spend 2 hours talking about the end of the Juventus game from yesterday because that was just insane.
Is that the one Lee Mason? Lee Mason was in Italy for a wedding act, and he just
I think Lee Mason's been sent to Serie A. That was just. We think VAR's bad, but Christ, that was just insanity. What happened? It
was absolute punishment. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, hopefully the games will stay on. There's already been a couple of postponed games. I think Chelsea games been postponed. Obviously, Brighton and Palace was postponed earlier. Manchester United Leeds has been postponed, isn't it? So there's a couple of games already that have been written off. But our game hopefully will still go ahead. I think some of the guys have mentioned you can use PCSOs as well. At the stadium. So hopefully that will help. But potentially, if the game is on at the weekend, we may very well have a new goalkeeper in our midst, which BT highlighted before. So yes, BT, we're aware that Enquiries has signed. We're going to just cover off what the club was saying about that. So we've got some comments here from Eddie Howe and from Enquiries himself. So Eddie Howe was just saying, we're pleased to add Lloris to the goalkeeping group. He's a very good goalkeeper, Premier League and European experience. He'll provide competition and support over an important part of the season. Enquiries himself has said, I'm excited. It's a good opportunity for me and a great project to be part of. It didn't take me long to make a decision. I'm sure it didn't make because you were a free agent. I'm sure you jumped at the opportunity. Newcastle have a great coach and play really attractive football. I felt it was the right project for me, and I'm excited to work with coaches and my new teammates. So yeah, thoughts on Enquiries, mate, as the resident goalkeeper. I already made my feelings quite clear about this in a video, but what do you think, mate, about Enquiries? Is he unfairly judged for a couple of clangers? Or you think so? Yeah,
I think look, goalkeepers get a bad rap at the end of the day when they make a mistake, and when you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it usually ends up as a goal. I think there were extenuating circumstances. I think for at least one, I think Ash has got it right. I think he's a very good backup goalkeeper. He's not going to come in and play unless something happens to Pope, God forbid. So, he's coming in very much to sit on the bench. He's not coming in to start. And if he has to, you've got a good goalkeeper there to come in and he can do a job. I think when you look at it, was at the Champions League fight, I think he got a concussion. I'm sure he had a concussion.
I think Ash has mentioned that he got concussed. So yeah, absolutely.
You've got to take that into account as well. And
is that the Bale overhead kick, wasn't it? That was the Bale overhead kick game.
There's the one where he dropped, didn't he? And there was the Benzema where he rolls the ball straight into him. It's just it was. it's one of those things. It can happen to any player on that stage. If they get to there, they can either freeze. If they've got something else going on, it can take over. But he's done a very good job for Liverpool, and it's not just there. He played plenty of times for Mainz. He's played for Besiktas, so he's not a bad goalkeeper, and certainly not a bad goalkeeper to have come in on a short-term deal like this.
Yeah, not a bad-looking bloke as well, according to some of the female fans on Twitter, because he is getting a lot of love for this as old
in fairness, there was a lot of those comments from you as well, sir.
Well, I couldn't help but to tweet the Zoolander comparison when he meets Fabian Schär at the training ground, because that was just too good to pass up, to be honest with you, because he does look a little bit like Owen Wilson in Zoolander, to be fair. But listen, the only thing Karius can do to really, prove people wrong effectively is to, when he comes in when he's needed, probably in the cups, I would imagine. When Darlow played, obviously, they don't want to risk Pope in a game like that in the FA Cup third round or whatever. If Karius comes in, makes a couple of good saves and looks steady, all of these doubts will be forgotten about, really, from previous spells at Liverpool. It's easy as football fans, for us to focus on the bad side. Me as well. Ash is right there. He's better than Darlow in his opinion. I think Ash is saying the Bale 40-yard that went through his hands. Yeah, Mitch made crisp packets. Yeah, I think it was a Bale goal. It wasn't the overhead, was it? It was a shot from the edge of the box, I think, that went in. But as Ash rightly says as well, he was on a free transfer, so you can't grumble too much. I mean, if we'd signed Ross Barkley, Mark, which I think we talked about as another player on a free transfer in the window, you could maybe start throwing out some of the, he's finished, he did shit at Villa, he's not done that at Chelsea, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we are being a little bit unfair to Karius. But I think one thing's for damn sure, I don't think Martin Dubravka's coming back to Newcastle United at all, mate. Would you agree with that?
I think Pope's there. Pope's your one. You need a two. Is that Darlow longer term? Could it be Karius? Long beyond January. I think he is just signed till January, so it very well could we see how this goes. He could come in as that number two, but Pope's your one. So I cannot see Dubravka coming anywhere near again. I think that's his time done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think we've just got to wait and see what happens with it. But on paper, if you look at him, he's what is he? I think he's 29 or something. That's very young as a goalkeeper. Very, very young as a goalkeeper. He's got European experience. He's played, through the ranks, for German youth football, isn't he, in terms of the under 21s and stuff like that. So, maybe he's not as bad of a goalkeeper as we first initially thought. But I think the problem is with goalkeepers, I think as Ash was saying, people remember the mistakes and they don't remember the saves. It's always the case with a goalkeeper. It's like Dubravka, isn't it? He could have been world class the week before. He drops a rick and, against Man City in front of somebody's feet, and then everyone remembers that, don't they?
Well, yeah. Look at my biggest sort of memory when I think about Dubravka is the one in the Euros where he drops it from underneath his.
Terrible.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. So that tells you, backs that comment up completely. You don't remember. You don't remember the saves. You remember the mistakes because it's far easier, and they're so significant as a goalkeeper that you can't help but do it.
But better than me. That's the life of a goalkeeper, isn't it? You live and die by the saves you make and the clean sheets you keep, really. So yeah, good luck to Karius. Let's just hope that he, we don't have to call upon him much, but when we do, let's hope he is capable of putting in a few performances, mate. So as Mark and rightly said, some of the content for this episode, we were scraping the barrel a little bit without any football at the weekend. You touched on it already, Mark. So a certain magical Frenchman has a new partner, mate. We're a little bit concerned there might be a bit of a Samson and Delilah situation going on here, because he looks like he's been properly clipped. He's had a Lionel Blair cut, if everyone remembers that one, old Maxi, to be fair. So I don't know if you've got the picture there, Mark. I think it was in the headline there, but he's had a proper scalping as Maxi. He's had a proper scalping, hasn't he? He's went to the hairdressers and potentially he's left the lower guard on, and Maxi's lost all of his wonderful dreads, mate, hasn't he?
He's been totally hit by a lawnmower, and he's totally taken it. But yeah, hopefully that's not him losing his powers. Like you said, you touched on the Samson thing. He's as long as those dancing feet are still there, I guess that's the main thing. But it was It was a funny tweet with it. I didn't put the picture on it. It's on the thumbnail.
It was, yeah,
with the picture he put up with the scissors above his head. I just thought it was a funny story. It's just one of those things that, you know, it sort of lightens the mood a little bit of things like that when there's not much going on football wise.
You were not the only one to remember that, Ash. I am from the Lionel Blair cut era. I do remember that very well, as does Mark, with his little smirk there. But yeah, it's funny because when you get a player like that, get away. When you get a player like that, he was just, you know, kind of synonymous with that, you know, with that look, isn't it? It is a bit of a shock factor when you see him get the old trim. But that's a very interesting point, actually. Will he wear a headband? I really hope he doesn't, because he'll look like some shit G.I. Joe Commando BT when he
probably had another bandage now.
He'll
have a bandage, you know, proper Terry Butcher style bandage around his head.
Yeah, I'm not sure if come Bournemouth he might have like sprinkle blonde tips in it or some shit. You can't imagine Maxi just like, you know, going for like a steady Mike Tyson 1996 haircut, can you? You know, there's got to be something put in there, I think, just to jazz it up a bit.
Yeah, so easy doesn't go down the Pogba sort of blue stripe or whatever.
Jesus. I hope not. Don't mention Pogba's name. You'll set me off.
Sorry, I didn't. I'm starting to. I sounded like a bit like Graham Souness there, just immediately going to
Pogba.
Invoking
Pogba. you get your hand out and give it that Pogba, because he gets very pissed off that there's a brilliant impressionist who does the Souness impression. It's absolutely super. Maxi Rodman, God, if there was one player that would go full Dennis Rodman, Ash, it would be Maxi, to be fair. But I think it must have been a shock for Eddie Howe and that when it came in. I wonder if like they said it to him as a joke, you know, like get your hair cut, you know, like that Simpsons episode where all the great baseball players come to the softball team and he says, shave off those sideburns, hippie. And he just has like a mohawk or something like that because he doesn't quite understand what he's talking about. So maybe it was something like that, possibly. Mad Dog Tyndall told me to get his hair cut because he was sick of them dreadlocks spawning in the shower and blocking the drain. So Maxi just went, right, fuck it. Let's get a short back in science. Job done. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, there we go. As I say, it's a slow news week, so it's
a very slow news week. I can't believe I'm talking about anybody's hairstyle, mate. Jesus Christ, Mother Nature's cutting my hair. I'm off for a meeting with Dr. Cynic, the new sponsor, mate. I want to see if I can be a case study, mate. That's what I'll get done. But
let's have the sponsorship opportunity for the podcast.
Yeah, Dr. Cynic, you want to come in? I will happily do a journey of hair, you know, and I'll have Maxi dreadlocks by the time the show reaches 3,000 subscribers, hopefully. But let's get back to some football, mate, because exactly we're not really hairdressers, so we can't talk about hair too much. But we did thought we'd talk about this. You know, some of the guys have done a real serious deep dive into this, but you know, couldn't help but notice that Joelinton was yet again snubbed by Brazil. I mean, you know, Brazil have always had a plethora of really good players to choose from, certainly in a midfield and attacking berth, but looking at some of that squad, mate, I mean, you got the squad there. He's got to feel a little bit hard done by, hasn't he, to not get in ahead of some of these guys?
Well, I guess when you look at the midfield, or the ones that listed as midfielders, Bruno, Casemiro, Paqueta, Fabinho, Everton, Ribeiro, and Fred.
Exactly.
Why is he not ahead of Fred?
He must be better than Fred, man. Surely.
What has Fred done to deserve to be in that squad? I'm sorry, but yeah, that I can argue the others. I could, yeah. Bruno ahead of him, yes. Casemiro ahead of him, absolutely. Paqueta, yeah. Fabinho, no problem with that. Ribeiro's more sort of I think plays further forward anyway. But Fred, why is Fred there? No idea. Why is Joe not ahead of Fred? And that it's just, yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you, Ash.
It's huge.
Yeah, he's such a better player than Fred. And like Ash is saying, one of my mates said Joelinton's like a PG version of Vinnie Jones. That's brilliant. Maybe that's why he's not getting in the Brazil squad. Ash, potentially he's just not an exciting enough of a player. They just think he's a bit too British, possibly. You know, he just the way he plays the game. And that was a fantastic comment, mate. Well said. Yes, the barber has said that to me on more than one occasion, mate. Very, very good. Very good. Yeah, Mark particularly is loving that one. But yeah, it just, I mean, Brazil don't have a player like that. I mean, we remember Mark growing up watching the Brazilian teams, and out of all the skillful players they had, you know, they had the likes of, you know, if you think about the '94 World Cup, you had your Marios, your your Leonardos and the Nielsen's and all these guys, but they always had like a Dunga, or they always had like a holding midfielder, or a Fernandinho, or somebody that can just sweep up while all the guys go off and do the flicks and tricks. They always got one person that can stay back and hold.
I know Fernandinho's pretty old, but I'm not sure he played in '94.
No, he wasn't quite. I'm sure there would have been a Fernandinho in that squad, because it's like a Brazilian. Smith isn't really, mate. So I'm sure
Dunga was it, wasn't it? Dunga was the one that sat in that kind of holding role. He was the driving force in that midfield. He was the captain in that area, and he was brilliant.
Gilberto Silva, that's who I was talking about. Gilberto Silva. Sorry, yes, I got mixed up. Gilberto Silva. He was a holding midfielder. He was a guy like that in the midfield.
To be fair, I guess in a sense he was a lot like Joelinton in the fact that he could get forward. He did a lot of the crap in midfield, didn't he? He did a lot of that work. He was brilliant as well. But yeah, they've always seemed to have that player that does that work, and I guess they've got that in a sense in that with having Fabinho in there. But it drives me crazy that you see Fred in that list, and it's just there has to be a better option than Fred. When Fred is the answer, what the hell question are you asking?
Well, exactly, and unless it's literally, can you get me a bloke called Fred? Then that's the only answer, really. There he is.
It's just the novelty factor of just a bloke called Fred.
Yeah, they're just giggling, like the Brazilian selectors are just giggling that somebody called Fred is in the selection process for Brazilian football. But that's a good point, Bash. We talked about this off camera, mate, didn't we? How long is it until Joelinton is allowed to play for England? Is that
5 years residency?
5 years.
We touched on this because we talked about this going back a while, wasn't it? With Arteta, there were calls for Arteta to play for England because he'd never played for Spain. So he was eligible, I think. So
with a name like, who was that pundit that thought he was called Joelinton, as in Joseph Linton? Who was it? Was it Merson or somebody? Somebody who was just a complete
Joe. It wouldn't surprise me if it was Merson.
Yeah,
if it was Michael Owen,
possibly.
I was going to say somebody like Hargreaves, but Hargreaves only ever does the Champions League stuff. So he's rolled out for crap like that. So
yeah, Hargreaves could be a shout, because I'm sure it was a BT game against Man United or something. But they kept calling him Linton. Yeah, that's exactly it. As the Jeff Lintons, train guy, have a cappuccino, Ash. Exactly, the big Jeff Linton. It was the funniest thing I'd ever heard, because I was sitting thinking, is he calling him Linton, as in Joe Linton? Like Chandler when he says he's not Phil Spiderman. He's the Spider-Man. It was a little bit like that, I was thinking,
Goldman, Silverman, Spiderman. Yeah,
Spiderman. So how are these people getting paid?
How many ones of this are we going to invoke Friends? This must be 3 weeks running now. Well,
the daughter started watching on Netflix, you see, after she said it was crap. I tried to suggest it, and she went, "Oh no, Dad, you're so cool." Yeah, I hate Friends. No. I said, you can't hate Friends. I said, it's probably one of the biggest TV shows of all time. And then all of a sudden now she's watching Friends. So Dad was right, but she'll never admit that, mate. She'll never admit that. Tommy's making a good point there. Their loss is our gain. Absolutely, mate. He'll be well rested for us. We said this before, me and Mark were doing the Joe Willock video before we come on here tonight. And we made a good point that when you look at Joelinton's stats, they're right up there against some of the best in the game, aren't they, mate? So come the end of the season, if Brazil go to the World Cup without somebody to play that role, then they're going to eat their words, probably, mate. If Joelinton's one of the best in the business.
Well, we said when we did the Joelinton video a while ago, that his stats at that point in time were right up there with the likes of Declan Rice and the like in the Premier League. So they're probably not obviously going to be that quite at that level now. You've got that extra period of time and stuff, but he's still exceptional at what he does. So, it would surprise me if he doesn't, but I guess now, him not being in the squad with a couple of months to go, it doesn't look likely. But I guess the point there is that he's going to be better rested for when the Premier League returns.
Absolutely.
Also, Ash, please.
Ash, come on. I did see that. I didn't want to bring that up because I didn't want to get a warning off YouTube.
I like this one. Joelinton.
Joe
Well, maybe we can use that. He's from Ellington.
He's from Ellington. God, yeah, with a silent G. Yeah, silent G. God, you remember them games against Alec next to that pylon? I'm pretty sure that's the reason I've lost my hair, sitting next to that pylon. I'm pretty sure, mate.
Many a battle.
Getting injured and sitting next to that pylon for too long. That's what made my hair fall out. That's what it is, mate. That's what it is. I'm blaming Ellington all the way. But
getting two-footed by your own teammate while you're trying to keep the ball from going in the net doesn't work either, mate.
Well, somebody needed to sort it out, mate. You're all pissing around too much, so someone needed to get it sorted. It was a very Joelinton-esque tackle, but yeah, it's
to me. Thanks very much.
Yeah, for that. To you. Yeah. We're going off on the side at a tangent here. But Mark's reliving some childhood trauma of me nearly snapping his leg as I just flew in and everybody decided to run and leave Mark's leg in the way of my studs. So yes, thankfully I didn't break his leg. I just made him spin.
That's the one time it didn't happen.
the only time you didn't break your leg, which was brilliant. So I'm glad that I wasn't a culprit for that, mate. But the comment there from Stu coming in, I noticed that Bruno wasn't happy with his new FIFA rating. What was it, Stu? Was it 89? I think it was 89. I think for Bruno, I think it was. But yeah, it's. I think. Bruno is one of the best players in Europe, really, in his position, one of the best young players in Europe. And I think Bruno is such a confident lad, isn't he, that I think he would be pissed off no matter what. FIFA gave him 99, he'd probably be pissed. He'd probably kick off and say he deserves to be better. But just going back to Joelinton, I think with Joe, I think he might just be really unlucky. Not that I'm comparing the two players because they're totally different players, but it's a little bit like, do you remember when Kevin Nolan was absolutely on fire for Bolton and for Newcastle, scoring loads of goals from midfield, and he didn't get a sniff of a chance in any England setups because there was so many players of better quality, deemed to be better quality, in ahead of him, and maybe Joelinton might fall into that bracket for Brazil, I think, unfortunately, in his career.
Possibly. I think when you've got the likes of obviously Casemiro and Fabinho, it's going to be
is low, isn't it? 81.
It's 81, 69 pace, 81 dribbling, 67 shooting, 76 defending, 79 passing, and 77 physical.
Get to fuck.
Poor.
Get to fuck. That's somebody that's an Arsenal fan who's done that. Pissed off they didn't sign him. That's what that is. What a load of bollocks.
Probably not wrong.
You're probably not wrong. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, Mark. As you were saying there, mate, he might just get, be unlucky because he's behind these players that are playing. I mean, maybe when, if he's still with the project, Joelinton, hopefully he is because he's still young enough. If he's still with the project when we are in the Champions League and stuff like that, maybe that's when he'll get the recognition, when he's part of that team that's playing European football potentially.
I suppose an argument for it, it's the size of where you are at that point in time, but then Bruno's in there, so the fact that it is at Newcastle isn't holding him back. But again, it's a very, very different. He's a very different style of player, isn't he? So,
Ash is back on with the Newcastle conspiracy theories here. If Messi was playing for Newcastle, he'd be 84. And Tommy's saying that Bruno's passing should be at least 95. I think you've just got to look at the similar players around him, haven't you? Like what is I don't know, what's Mason Mount scored at? What's who else? What's Thiago scored at? At Liverpool and stuff like that. What are they all scored at? If they're scored higher than Bruno, then he's probably got just cause to be a bit pissed off, really. Mark's on the hunt there. I can see his eyes are lighting up. He's off on FIFA stat hunting in the background there. But it's I've got the EA Play thing actually, so I'm waiting for it to come on there. I'm sure it's supposed to be coming in the end.
I think Mason Mount's been rated 83.
Fuck off! He's never better than Bruno. What a load of bollocks! Who has done these stats, man? Unbelievable.
Madness.
I'm sure it wasn't
Thiago, wasn't it?
Yeah, Thiago. I'm sure it wasn't Ugly Bear, even to you too, buddy, the Manchester United fan. We love a dropping from the resident bear. Good to see you, mate, in the comments. But I wonder what what's Fred scored at? Tell me Fred's not. Tell me Fred's not better than Bruno.
Thiago's in 86.
Bollocks. He's never 5 better than bloody Bruno, him, is he?
Fred is...
Did Lampard do that one? He probably did, mate. He probably did.
Oh, fucking hell. Fred's 81.
How can Fred be the same as Bruno? He's nowhere near the player, man. 79. Ash reckons 81. You said Fred was 81.
I from what I'd said, I'd seen 81, but I can be stand correct. I've just done a quick search there. So Jesus
Christ,
Christ.
what's Matty Longstaff? 79. Maybe not.
Probably rated him under that, to be fair.
He probably did. Matty's friends with the program. He went to uni, he went to school or something like that. Yeah, go on, just whack us a higher score, mate. Yeah, Ash is laughing that Fred is 81. That is unbelievable. That for shame, FIFA.
What is that
for shame.
If they watched him over the last 12 months, yes, he's had a couple of good games. That is exactly it. A couple of good games.
Unless they've done like
I know we've got
McFred.
to be bear in the comments, so I'll be a little bit kind of, but yeah, Jesus Christ, he's been dreadful.
Unless they put them as one, like McFred, like they're both 40. Somehow they've just put them together as 81. Maybe that might be the real score potentially. Who knows? But I don't know how you can score that. I don't know how you can score him the same as Bruno. That's absolutely horrendous. That give your head a wobble. No wonder Bruno's pissed. I just love the fact that he's not scared to say it. So that's why we love Bruno, because he couldn't give a shit, could he? Which is absolutely brilliant. So just moving on to the last category, Mark, I suppose for the night. As I said, it is a slow news week, so we're doing our best to eke out as much as we can here. But Nick Pope for England now. Obviously Pope has been sensational as he's been nominated for Player of the Month, save after save after save. You saw a mint start in a minute, which we're going to come on to in a second. But I think, am I right in thinking that I heard Pickford's pick up an injury as well? Is that right? Is Pickford injured?
Well, I think there was he might be missing for England, which is perfect timing. I think that would as Ash put there, that Southgate would pick him. If he's forced to not play him, that can only be a good thing for Nick Pope in that regard, because he's head and shoulders the better goalkeeper. I don't know. Pickford had an unbelievable game against Liverpool. I'm not going to knock him out. He pulled off some brilliant saves. He just doesn't give you the confidence as watching him that he doesn't do it often enough. How many games has Nick Pope now played like that this season already? Pretty much every one. He's been brilliant in.
But he's been sensational. Didn't you say that there's a stat about the best sweeper keeper as well? I think you picked.
It was from Squawka, and I've lost it now. But it's like sweeper keeper in what is it? Best keeper sweeper Regans, and Nick Pope is top across Europe's top 5 leagues, and that's ahead of the likes of Alisson and what have you, that he's at top. I've got to be honest with you, I haven't had time to digest the stat. It literally was like 2 seconds before we came on that I spotted it, so it was just like, well, it's one to use at least. So there we go. But he proves that he's got that side of the game to him.
Absolutely.
Like, before he signed, it was like, well, he's no good with his feet. He can't do that sort of role. Yes, he can. We've seen it. He can.
Well, he can. I mean, I think, again, someone like Pope, when he signed, obviously the ITKs missed all that, didn't they? So unlucky with that one. But when he signed...
Just one of many.
Yeah, just one of many. Well, hopefully we're going to have a video soon, actually, guys, with a journalist, and we're going to ask him about ITKs, whether they think they're good or bad for the game, which would be an interesting one. So make sure you check that out. We should be doing that Thursday this week. We might go live with it, so we'll see how it goes. We'll keep you posted. But going back to Nick Pope, he was one of them players when we signed him. It was a little bit. Some people were a little bit like, oh, meh, Nick Pope, bloody hell. Was that what we're getting? The Burnley goalkeeper. But you were always adamant, Mark, that this guy was a better keeper than people gave credit for. I said the same thing. The Lynchman, I know, was a huge fan of him as well in the squad. And he's just come in. He's been absolutely sensational. And I think at 10 million quid, I think the Lynchman said it last week on the show, he could probably be our best signing of the summer. Couldn't he, really, pound for pound?
Absolute bargain. You've got international standard goalkeeper, proven Premier League goalkeeper who has played well for many years now, and he's done very well in a Burnley side that concede a lot of shots. Absolutely agree, Ash. They are far better than Pickford. And I guess the other comment I saw in there was from Stu as well, saying Arsenal fans will insist Ramsdale's better than Pope. Yeah. You're always going to get that argument, and I guess you get the bias, don't you? But for me, Pope is just, and certainly in form, he's head and shoulders above them all because he's been exceptional right from the get-go. He's not let anybody down. He hasn't had a single mishap. He's been on point with his feet. He's been quick to come out. He's good one-on-one. He's been great command in the area, shot stopping, which I always will say that has to be your bread and butter anyway. It's just he exudes confidence as a goalkeeper. He allows they go. So he exactly that. He puts it back on. He allows the defenders just to have confidence in who's behind them, to know that, look, if we mess up or there's something happens, we've got somebody we trust behind us to clear up.
I think the big thing for me that makes him a better international goalkeeper, because you can be a good club goalkeeper, can't you? But international goalkeepers a very different ball game altogether. One thing I think Nick Pope has is the right temperament. I think that's Pickford's biggest problem, is the temperament. I know he did all right the last tournament, but Pickford's always got that little meltdown inside him. He's always got that little just batshit crazy moment. And when you're in big tournaments, you don't need your goalkeeper to have that. I think when you're looking at them, side by side, I totally agree with the comment before. I think Ramsdale and Pope are light years ahead of Pickford in every way a goalkeeper should be. I think commanding the box, handling, coming for crosses, one-on-ones, shot stopping, everything, distribution, same with their feet. They're way ahead of Pickford, but above everything else, they're way ahead of Pickford mentality-wise. Ramsdale's a bit of a he's a bit of a character, isn't he? He's a bit of a joker. Like he'll take the piss out of the fans and stuff like that. I quite like that about him. That he's a bit quirky. He's a little bit like Joe Hart used to be. Bit quirky as a character, but I think with Nick Pope, he's just got that steely kind of determination and focus as a goalkeeper. Almost a little bit like, the throwback to like the David Seamans of years gone by, where, he didn't sound like he was, maybe as big of a character as he is, because when it was game time, he was absolutely switched on and focused. And if I'm an England fan and I'm coming to the tournament, I say if I'm an England fan, because I'm not, obviously I was born in Scotland, as everybody knows, but if I'm at the tournament and I'm in the last stages of the tournament, I don't want Jordan Pickford in between the sticks for me. I want somebody like Nick Pope who I can rely on, have the right temperament, keep his head cool.
Yeah, it's difficult because Pickford's never. You go with the argument. Pickford's never let England down, but you can see it happening, and I genuinely just don't think you get that from Nick Pope. Cheers, Alex.
He is, Alex. He's a mega saves our ass, is what he is, mate. Pretty much every game.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, like you say, he just gives you confidence that you can trust him. It's really difficult, guy, to say, because for England, Pickford's never really put a foot wrong, but I still don't trust him.
No.
It's the Maguire argument. Maguire's never really let England down. Would you put him in there? No, you just don't trust him.
In our previous guys, Ash, I was quite open and honest about my heritage, mate. But I do hide it.
The whole video after we played in the Euros, so you can go back and watch that to your heart's content if you
go back and check it out. Absolutely, but I was born in Glasgow and raised in Newcastle, hence my accent. So yes, I was. That's the reason why I'm sadly
got a pass.
Yeah, come on. You're laughing now, but wait till Nicola Sturgeon builds that wall. I'll be breezing on through there, mate. I'll be getting a tartan passport out, and I'll be saying, "You're right, big man. No bother. I'm straight in there, by the way." And I'll be me. I'll be gone. I'll be away. So absolutely. But I think going back to Pope, mate, you're right. I think just everybody's saying it though, isn't it? It's not just the Newcastle fans that are saying it now. It's everybody who's saying it. And Burnley fans have been saying it for ages. To be fair to them. I think if you go back and check any Burnley podcasts out, they've probably been saying this for a long time, how good Nick Pope is. And you said it before we even signed him, how good he was, mate. You were championing him for the England squad way before, he arrived at Newcastle. But he's come to Newcastle, no disrespect to Burnley. It's a step up. It's a bigger club. There's more scrutiny on him in terms of the focus and the project. And, you can get on board with people want us to fail and all that kind of stuff. But the focus is on Newcastle United now. Southgate has to spend more time at St James's Park than he's ever done before, because he's got Trippier there. He's got Nick Pope there. He's interested in what Callum Wilson does when he's fit. Matty Targett's catching people's eyes. Even Dan Burn, who, talk about a centre-half that can play left-back and centre-half. That's good to have in a squad in a tournament in case you get an injury. Do you know what I mean? So potentially there's a good few players that Southgate should be looking at.
It could be. Definitely, you're looking at Trippier, Target as well. You know, we've kind of struggled with injuries to left backs recently. So you know, Chilwell's just coming back, but looks fit now. So I think he'll come in. You don't want to start swapping right backs to left back like we've done before. You want left-footed left backs in there. So Target is definitely one to have. You know, in his output in his game, he's proven that he deserves that look too. I want to come back to a comment. I'm just trying to find it from Stu a little bit earlier about.
Right, absolutely, Stu.
That wasn't 18 months ago. That was in May. There was a report saying that they wanted 40 million from him because West Ham was sniffing around him, and that was towards the end of the season, and that was whether or not they went down. I think so. It's that's to get him for 10 million. It's just such a bargain. I'm still staggered.
Yeah, I'm still laughing at some of these comments here. So Stu's talking about Elliot Anderson. He's obviously played for Scotland under 21s. So did Lucas Tiboli as well. He got called up for the Scottish under 21s. So I think he's got a Belgian mother and a Scottish father or something or other. It's a bit like Paolo Nutini, isn't it? That kind of mentality, Lewis Capaldi and everything else. But Alex is saying hands off our new Gaza. You know, I mean, to be fair to Elliot Anderson, we talked about him at length on the last podcast. That I think once the lad gets the chance to grab a start, I honestly do think he'll put in the performances that means he'll give Eddie Howe a massive headache as to how to get him out of the team. I still think, just a little sidestep away from England, because there is one comment I want to go back to, because I'm very interested in your take on this, Mark. But just a little bit on Elliot Anderson, as we talked about, do you think Bournemouth could be the time for somebody to get a rest? Or do you think this massive long break we've had because of the postponement, it will give Eddie Howe time to recharge the players, and we'll just see kind of the normal starting 11 would expect to start against Bournemouth?
I think you could look at it both ways. It gives him more time to plan. So it could give him more time to put him in the game plan for Bournemouth. And I do think it's probably the right time to unleash him in if you've got him in. I guess especially if you're still not 100% in terms of fitness for some of them, even this weekend. What better time to unleash him and give him 60 minutes from the start and just see what he can do. Then if you're bringing Saint-Maximin back and you don't want to push him from the start, then you bring him on towards the end of the game. So I just think it's almost a perfect game for him to come into.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think Gary Deal's had Bournemouth looking a lot better as well, hasn't he? As of late, certainly they were under Parker. Makes you wonder if they're down tools, but it'll be a massive game, and we'll cover it on Wednesday with the lads. But it'll be a massive game, for Eddie Howe. It'll be a massive game for Ryan Fraser, for Callum Wilson. I think Wilson might get back on the bench potentially. I think Maxi might be on the bench. I think Bruno's a starter. This is just my feeling about it. I think when you look at how Eddie Howe has been talking about the players, Bruno sounded like he was closest to Palace anyway, above everybody else. So I think Bruno will come back in. We mentioned about Joe Willock in our video that we did before there. Joe Willock's played every single game, as has Joelinton. Yes, you could say they need a rest, but this kind of forced break that's happened anyway will give them that rest. And obviously with neither one of them, going away on any international duties and stuff like that, hopefully it'll give them time to recharge anyway. But just going back to the England situation there, I saw this comment and I had to bring this up. As I said, Trent looks meh-ish. I know Mark's got Mark gets more animated when we're talking about Trent, but just talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold, this the Messiah, the second coming of Christ at right back, right? Christ, why can't he defend? That's probably what I would say. But if you've got Kieran Trippier and him in the same squad, I'm sorry, Trippier starts all day long for me over Trent Alexander-Arnold because he can defend and he can attack.
Do you know what he reminded me of against Napoli last week? Who was the player that Gareth Bale tore to shreds for Inter?
Oh, Maicon.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Brazilian.
That's what it reminded us. He may as well not have been on the pitch.
He was terrible
because he was out of position. He wouldn't run back when he did. He ran back like he couldn't be arsed. Even when sort of things started to break down, he was still not getting back into position. What is he doing? He looked like he couldn't be arsed. What is that from your golden boy? I'm sorry. That's awful.
has he got too full of himself, Trent Alexander-Arnold? I know this is a Newcastle podcast, but has he bought into his own hype a little bit? I mean, if you're an England right back, right, at the minute, that's the one position that you do not want to slack off in, because there's such a wealth of players beating down the door and nick your space. I mean, you got Kieran Trippier, you got Kyle Walker, you got Reece James, you've got Lampard at Brighton if he can get back on form.
Well, Reece James is the one, isn't he? So Reece James is I think is the one that will take that spot. I just think he's the much better fullback. I do think we're going to see Trent further forward. I think as time goes
on, isn't he? Yeah, he's going
to play in that midfield role, whether that's as a wide right or sort of more central. But he can't. Liverpool fans have argued for the last few years that he's a better defender than people have made out. He's awful at defending. He struggles to tackle. He gets caught out of position wildly at times. Mind you, so is Robertson at times recently. They get caught far too far forward, and I think that's a victim of the way that Liverpool have played. They've been asked to get forward, but it almost seems like they just now can't be bothered to get back, or somebody else will sort it out. It's just if you're going to have a fullback, we can't afford that for England. Not coming up against some of the wide players that we're going to see, the wide forwards that we'll come up against in the World Cup. I mean, do you want Trent, defending against the likes of Mbappe or no Neymar, chance. Or just no? You
get ripped to pieces.
Terrifies me.
Yeah, absolutely ripped to pieces. And there's ugly bears saying there he's okay going forward, but he's shite this season. He's been totally exposed. It's interesting actually because again, it might sound a bit kind of hot airish, but I would not swap. Honestly, I wouldn't swap fully fit our back five for Liverpool's back five right now. I honestly really wouldn't. The form they're in, I would not swap them. Nick Pope and Alisson, Trent and Trippier.
You wouldn't swap Joe Gomez for Fabian Shaw?
No, I would not. I would not swap Joe.
That was a joke.
I'd rather have Gomez Adams, I think, than Joe Gomez at the minute. He'd fucking be a better player. But if you look at our back five at a serious note, right, and you look against Liverpool, that supposedly we're one of the best back fives in the league. You look at the way they've started this season, how easily they've been got at compared to our back five. I wouldn't swap any one of them, mate.
No, not in terms of form at the moment. How poor has Van Dijk been this season as well?
Looks like Dick Van Dijk, didn't he? He's fucking terrible.
The supposed best centre back in the world. He's dropped so many levels this season. It's unbelievable. I wouldn't at the moment. I'm not sure I would swap any of them. You might over time, but certainly in terms of form, no, you wouldn't swap out any of them in that unit.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment there by Ugly Bear. It's such a shame he was injured for the game, mate, because you would have had him on toast, I think. I mean, you looked at how Isak breezed by them. I mean, that second goal, that brilliant finish, I still don't think he's offside, in my opinion. But the Liverpool defenders did not know he was offside. They were legitimately trying to stop him, and they had no chance. They were all over the place. They were tied up in knots. And the way he put that ball away, you could see them looking at each other thinking, oh, shit. And the linesman did them a favour. If Max had been playing that game,
didn't he? So it's just that was just throwing themselves.
Brilliant. It was it's absolutely great. I like that comment, Alex. Absolutely. The sense for Gomez, listen, potentially, mate, as a bench warmer. But
did you watch Gomez against Napoli? I'm not even sure I'd do that one, mate. To be fair,
absolutely. He was. Yeah. But I think going back to it, I mean, they're never getting anywhere near City this season. I mean, we gave City a better game than they'll give City, I think. It's St James's Park, because I think City will rip them to pieces.
Yeah, it's funny. Neither of them look particular. I mean, they've had the odd, the games where they look sensational, but when you go back to City against Newcastle, Newcastle played so well against them and stopped playing. Villa did something very similar, last weekend where they got a point out of them and possibly could have won that one too. Liverpool, they've been pretty much outplayed in a lot of their games, not maybe statistically, but they've just not created the chances and conceded good chances, which is where I was kind of getting to there. They've dominated possession but done nothing with it. And I just think they're massively missing Mane, I think that's been a huge blow to them. and obviously Darwin getting sent off early doors didn't help their cause, but they just don't look right. There's something not quite right there. Whether it's this Jurgen Klopp 7-year itch that seems to crop up, it could be.
Possibly.
But there's something not right. But yeah, that's for them to discuss, not for us.
Well, yeah, that'd be a Liverpool podcasting. But it is an interesting thing. I suppose it does tie in with us a little bit as well, because I think somebody asked us this in one of the chat groups, I think it was, that do you think Thomas Tuchel being out of work will put pressure on the likes of Eddie Howe and potentially even Jurgen Klopp if they start to lose it a little bit and slip up a bit? I'm not sure Tuchel would take our job as good as we are. I'm not sure I think Tuchel would think he's too big for our job without sounding too. I'm not trying to knock us down, but what do you think? Think I'm wrong there?
I don't know. I suppose it depends on how it's sold. I'm not sure you'll get the chance. I think that's first and foremost. I think.
No. I think Eddie's definitely got enough credit in the bank to be here for a long, long time. Mate.
I can't remember who there was somebody in one of the outlets said the other day that they could see him potentially going to Newcastle.
It was Collymore, wasn't it? Stan Collymore.
Yes, thank you.
Stan Collymore.
So, I guess that's it's almost a logical kind of place when you think about it in terms of the way that both clubs are progressing. Maybe he's the one to go next.
He's the next level up, so to speak.
Yeah, possibly. You've still got the likes of Poch as well that you could look at in that regard, but I don't know. I think as somebody said the other, I think one of the guys in our chat said the other day, I think Tuchel probably ends up back in Germany, possibly at Dortmund, because they seem to like running their managers out quickly these days.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I can't see him. I'm not sure he's the right fit at the moment for it. It doesn't strike me as the right character for Newcastle. I think I'm basing that a lot on what we've seen from Eddie Howe. He almost fails the dickhead test, doesn't he?
Well, there's something that Ash is saying there about Eddie has to stay through, see the project through until it goes really tits up, and nobody bears saying Tuchel is shite as a person, his character stinks. It's something we're going to probably talk a bit more about on Wednesday with the lads on the Evermore podcast, but Eddie Howe sat down with Shearer, didn't he, for the Athletic, and he had a good chat with him, and you hear him talking, and it's almost like a beautiful blend of a bit of Keegan and a bit of Robson in and amongst this, this young articulate manager. He has this aura, this charisma, this charm about him that he just gets the club. He gets what the fans are looking for. He gets the potential of what the club can be. We will get a lot more, in depth with it on Wednesday. But for me, I think Stu's totally bang on there in the comments. He hopes Howe's here for 10 years. I can honestly see Howe building a bit of a dynasty here, Mark, taking us from, the laughing stock, the whipping boys, the relegation fights, up to the top 7, the top 6, maybe the top 4, maybe even, title contenders. I don't think we need to level up if you want to a Tuchel or a Jose. I think Jose's gone anyway, but I just think that, everybody screams about these young managers like Potter, like Howe getting given the chance at the big clubs. Obviously, Potter's got his chance now. Eddie Howe has his chance with a big club right now, and that's where he is, mate, isn't he?
Well, he's coming from the ground up, and I think if you go back to when we talked about when he was rumored to come in. And that will have been under our previous guys as well. Yeah. That we touched on Eddie Howe. He might not be the answer long term, but he was the right answer for now. He was the right answer. He was the right manager at the time. And if he then does his job, he keeps you up. He did. He gets the chance to take that next step. And anything you get beyond what he's already done is a huge bonus. Because the place was an utter train wreck, wasn't it? It was only heading in one direction, and it's been so pleasing to see that change, and to see him come in and do what he does best, which is coach. And you can take the next step, so you get the level up in the club and him himself. So it's not about level up the manager and go to a Tuchel or whoever next. He's doing it himself, so that by the time that you get to the Champions League, he's at that level too. because he's doing this, and he's still young enough to have another 20 years in the job. Do you know what I mean? He could conceivably do a Ferguson and stay there for 20 years and have, like you say, have that dynasty where he builds the whole thing, and the whole thing is built in his image.
Absolutely. But I mean, as Ash is there, he'll level up with us, as you rightly said, Mark, as well. He's not gonna be there just keeping the seat warm, and it's again, we'll get stuck in it more Wednesday with the lads from 7 o'clock, so check that out. But you think about Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger came from Japan, and everyone, even that infamous joke that Ian Wright said, "Oh, who?" Arsene Wenger, who? And look how good he did. He totally revolutionized
the game. It was a joke,
the game,
wasn't it? When he came in, nobody knew. He was hounded because nobody knew who he was. He this French bloke that had come from Japan, that it would never work. It was a ridiculous signing for them, and he was absolutely brilliant.
He was absolutely, and we'll come to Stu's point in a second there. But Arsene Wenger didn't just bring a new style of football. He brought a new lifestyle. The players stopped getting pissed and doing all that stuff and eating right and getting fitter and stronger. And you listen to Gary Neville when he does a soccer box, and he even says that they noticed how fit Arsenal were, and they thought, Christ, we need to do this. And then clubs started bringing nutritionists and all this other stuff, to copy what Wenger had done. But going to your point there, Stu, do you think the top level in the league will drop at all when Pep leaves? I do think Pep set a standard because he set standards wherever he is. But as Mark rightly says there, the throwback to the previous standard setters in Ferguson and Wenger, and then Jose when he came in, took over the mantle, didn't he? Really, I think from that side of it, somebody else will set the standard. It'd be great if it's Eddie Howe or potentially Potter, as Ugly Bear's saying there. That they are good characters and they're good football people. But I think that there might be a little drop off when Pep goes. But I think that Manchester City team will be ever evolving anyway. So God knows who they might have the next big thing in by that point. Which I think that they probably will. But just to finish the episode up, really, Mark. I think. Finish on Eddie Howe, we'll get more into this on Wednesday. But what I love about Eddie Howe is I think when it went a bit sour at Bournemouth, he didn't just lie down. He went off and become a better manager and come back at the right time, didn't he? And I think we're enjoying the benefits of that right now, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that tells you the measure of the man to accept his faults and go, yes, I wasn't good enough. I'm going to go away and improve myself, give myself the time to learn from some of the best in the business, not just that would agree with my philosophy, because his philosophy in football is completely polar opposites to the likes of Simeone, yet he goes and spends time with Atletico to go and learn what he's doing and go and see him in action and take bits. You take bits of the best that you can, and you try and implement some of that into your own style. But he's very much got a style that he likes. He's got a way of playing, a way of dealing with things. But it's just, the fact that you've gone away, you've taken time to go and learn and go and improve yourself. And this is just Newcastle are reaping the benefits of that massively now.
100%. A great place to finish on, Mark, as well. We'll get stuck into more on that on Wednesday with all the lads. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Great to have you in the comments as always. It really helps the banter flow on the channel. We're going to be back on Wednesday with the lads for the Evermore podcast live at 7. So make sure you check that out. As I mentioned at the start, if you're new or you haven't done already, please click the like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. We'll keep bringing you videos like this. The Joe Willock video, Mark, should be out possibly the next day or two, shouldn't it? So the guys should check that out.
Yeah, hopefully tomorrow. I think we'll get that out tomorrow.
Fantastic. Definitely worth looking at that, especially for anyone in the comments who loves stats. I know you're hiding in there somewhere. I saw you earlier on. So Mark's got some cracking stats in there, absolutely. So that's us signing off for now, guys. Let's keep supporting that team of Newcastle United, and we'll catch you back on Wednesday for Evermore. See you later.
Take care, guys.